joining us for Exploring Social Emotional Learning Skills in Health and Physical Education Curriculum webinar. My name is Kristen Burfeld, and I'm a project leader with OPHEA. Please note that there is a chat room in the bottom right-hand corner of the Adobe Connect room that you can use to ask and respond to questions during the webinar. We will have a question and answer period at the end of the webinar for any final questions, and we invite you to stand and move around throughout the webinar as we connect and learn together. We also invite you to follow along with us as we tour the 2019 Elementary Health and Physical Education curriculum through opening the link that we will put in the chat room as well. Today we will be hearing from Andréanne, Fleck, Saito, and Nicki Keenliside, who will be sharing information on social emotional learning skills in the 2019 Health and Physical Education curriculum. This is part of a webinar series to support the implementation of the curriculum. Andréanne Fleck Saito is a registered social worker and implementation coach at School Mental Health Ontario, a provincial implementation team designed to support Ontario school districts to enhance the mental health and well-being for all students. Andréanne has acquired over 20 years of experience working in community, private, and school-based settings to provide direct service and advocating for child and youth mental health. And with over 25 years in the education system, Nicki Keenliside has just returned to the classroom, teaching grade 3. She was at the Education Office with the Student Achievement Division of the Ministry of Education for 3 years with a secondment prior to that. She has also been an instructional leader for K-8 Health and Physical Education with the Toronto District School Board. Currently teaching grade 3 to 8 Health and Physical Education at John English Junior Middle School, she is also sitting on the executive of OPHEA, the Ontario Association for the Support of Physical and Health Educators. Nicki is currently pursuing her master's in curriculum and pedagogy at the University of Alberta, and we will be hearing from Nicki first.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope it's been a good day. We'd like to start this afternoon with a quick poll to determine who is in our classroom today. Could you take a moment to please check all that apply? Thank you for participating. Fantastic. We see we have a variety of scenarios, but we see that most of you are supporting educators with the delivery of health and physical education. Thank you so much for participating in our first poll of the afternoon. As evidenced by our poll, we do have a diverse audience, but we hope by the end of today's webinar that you will have a clearer understanding of the rationale for updates to Strand A, in spite of our longing for the living skills from the 2015 curriculum. We also hope you feel more comfortable and confident implementing and assessing Strand A, and we also hope you have an increased awareness of the bevy of resources that exist to support the implementation of the 2019 Health and Physical Education curriculum. This afternoon's webinar will begin with Andréanne, who will go over completing an overview of Strand A, the social emotional learning skill. It will come back to me, and we'll look at some considerations for program planning and assessment as it relates to social emotional learning skills. Then we're going to talk about some resources that exist, and all throughout the webinar, we're hoping that we'll be applying and sharing ideas. Before we get started, I think it's important, and we're going to ask you to please share with us how knowledgeable you are currently feeling about Strand A. We're going to check in with your knowledge at the beginning of today's webinar, and then we're going to check in at the end to determine how much has been learned. We're really hopeful you'll be feeling more comfortable and confident by the end. Okay, thank you very much. That will help us, and then we'll do the polling again at the end of the webinar. Okay, let's get started. So for this portion of the webinar, we're going to turn to Andréanne, who will address the updates related to the social emotional learning skills. Over to you.
Thank you, Nicki. Thanks for the introduction. Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Andréanne Fleck, and I'd like to get us started just by reminding us that a curriculum that includes learning about social emotional skills and mental health is actually a critical component of school-based mental health promotion, and it reflects a community-wide approach to mental wellness. So this really is a very holistic approach, and we're really excited about it being in the actual curriculum. So the new curriculum, which you have a link to, is based on the vision that the knowledge and the skills that the students will learn will benefit them throughout their lives and allow them to thrive in an ever-changing world by helping them develop mental health and well-being, physical and health literacy, and the comprehension, the capacity, and the commitment they will need to lead healthy, active lives and promote healthy, active living. So you'll see that throughout the curriculum, there are a lot of connections being made between social emotional learning, mental health, and physical health. So some of the updates to the curriculum are really here on this slide, and they really include new learning and expectations that focus on developing social emotional skills that can be applied across the curriculum. So it's not just a one-time in space approach, but rather throughout. It's a focus on building understanding about mental health literacy, and it enhanced opportunities throughout the curriculum to learn about the very important connections between physical and mental health. So again, reminding us that it's all about global health. I welcome any comments on the sidebar. If you're able to hear okay, or if you've got, if things are going well, just put 2 thumbs up. As educators, you have a key role in helping students to enhance social and emotional skills, as some of this learning occurs through formal and explicit instruction related to skills development. Even as you demonstrate your commitment to areas such as positive mental health, equity, safety, and inclusion, you're already integrating social emotional learning into your daily classroom lives. So this isn't something that is completely unfamiliar with you. You're already doing a lot of this work. And as already noted, creating a mentally healthy classroom environment is foundational to learning. As you can see, when students feel welcome, included, and understood, you probably noticed that they're more willing to take risks and try new things. This can encourage them to practice new relational skills in a safe, inclusive, culturally responsive, and caring environment. The research even tells us that the environment in which students can learn can either facilitate or hinder skill development. So it's really important for us to think about how we do it. Now, what does the research say? We turn to the research to really help us recognize that this work is based in evidence. So we talk a lot about evidence-based programming, and this is exactly what this is about. More specifically, a 2011 meta-analysis of 213 studies involving school-based, universally delivered social emotional learning programming reveals gains in student skills, interpersonal attitudes, classroom behavior, and an 11th percentile point increase in student achievement on standardized tests. So we're really seeing the benefits of this across a student's life. So the science is really linking social and emotional learning to student gains in a whole host of areas, including better social and emotional skills, improved attitudes about themselves, others, and school, positive classroom behavior, fewer conduct problems, less emotional stress, and even lower drug use. So the findings are really quite promising, and they're showing us some good evidence. So in terms of social emotional learning skills in elementary health and physical education, it really is that they help us to be successful at home, school, and at work. It's not just at school, it's in all areas of our lives. And they are the sorts of abilities that are needed to start and keep relationships, to complete tasks, and stay positive in the face of stress and adversity. Social and emotional skills are also foundational to ensuring that we maintain respectful and inclusive school and communities where everyone feels that they belong. So when we look at social emotional learning, oftentimes we focus or we look at the framework for SEL by CASEL that has been very, very useful and helpful in guiding some of the initial development of development of programming in the United States and internationally. But in Ontario, we've used this as a base for further operationalizing social emotional learning so that it can be more easily implemented in classrooms here. So we want to make sure that it fits the context in which we're working. So the skill categories that have been prioritized we'll go over in the next few slides. But it's important to remember that the tools and resources for social emotional learning developed by School Mental Health Ontario considers the breadth of diversity within our province. It's important to remember that not one size fits all. from a student's developmental perspective, and then the way in which skills are expressed across culture, language, and diverse social identities. So these considerations really help Ontario students to see themselves and their assets and context within this approach. We want to make sure that we're looking at this from an inclusive design perspective. So in Ontario, these are the 4 social emotional learning categories that we've identified throughout the curriculum. So you may already be familiar with these, but maybe the language is new to you. So when we look at all 6 of these, you will recognize identification of management management of emotions, stress management and coping, positive motivation and perseverance, healthy relationships, self-awareness and sense of identity, critical and creative thinking. So critical and creative thinking also may resonate for you if you're used to hearing the language around executive functioning skills. So when we look at identification and management of emotions, it really is that, right? So that students can express their feelings and understand the feelings of others. And some of those examples might include recognizing emotions in self, body cues, relationship between emotions, and thoughts and behavior. The next one around stress management, students will recognize sources of stress and cope with challenges so they can develop personal resilience. So really being able to name it and then to know how to deal with it, right? So through problem solving, relaxation, calming, mindfulness. And again, these are probably things that you're already doing, right? So it's not completely new to you, but what we're doing here is we're identifying, we're naming it, and we're making sure that it's being done in an explicit and intentional way throughout the day. So in terms of positive motivation and perseverance, students learn this skill so that they can foster a sense of optimism and hope. Again, this looks like the growth mindset approach or the optimism or a positive attitude. Healthy relationships, well, this includes listening, cooperation, friendship, empathy. And empathy is really, really key, not just in developing relationships, but learning to understand each other, learning about our differences and learning how to respect those. It really starts with empathy. And of course, conflict resolution, being respectful to others. Self-awareness and sense of identity is another really important one so that they can develop a sense of identity and belonging. Know where they come from, right? And then know how to, or where they belong. It does include a sense of mattering, assertive communication, and knowing oneself. So again, these are things that you're probably already doing. And critical and creative thinking is really about helping students make informed decisions, right? Think critically about your situations and how to organize your thoughts. So that will include goal setting, problem solving, time management, perseverance, and detecting bias as well. So these are all very important skills that you're going to be able to teach throughout the day and throughout the program based on what was developed. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to back to Nicki to talk about considerations for program planning and assessment. But for more ideas about social emotional cues, learning cues, you can look at Appendix A in the curriculum.
Thanks, Andréanne. Hoping many of you are already feeling more comfortable with Strand A and eager to start thinking about program planning and assessment. I'm going to take a moment with this slide because I really love the image on this slide. It's such a great way to encapsulate the considerations for program planning and assessment. I love that the students in this slide or this vision that we have the learning goals accessible to them. It's very visible. I believe for both of these students, it looks like they're self-assessing pretty much a bullseye, right? A level 4. And I think it appears that this tool that the educator is using is eco-friendly and reusable. So I love it. Just thought I'd take a moment to share that with you. On the next slide, you see the image, H&PE image. At the center, a student in motion. The heart is visible and might represent many things. The heart pumping when active and completing moderate to vigorous activity, or the love of movement or activities in health and phys ed. Surrounding the student, sunshine or a burst of energy. What H&PE provides? Around the brain, you see its connection to and the importance of physical and health literacy. Also, surrounding the student, you see the learning. You see the 4 strands and the overall expectations for each. In the bottom left, you see Strand B, which is active living. When the focus of the learning is connected to being active, learning about the enjoyment and motivation to participate in physical activity, the development of physical fitness, and responsibility for safe participation in physical activity for themselves and others. Above the head, you see Strand C, the movement competence, movement skills, and concepts and movement strategy strand. The students learn kinesthetically in the strand, as in the active living strand, and have regular opportunities in every grade to develop and practice their personal movement skills. The development of fundamental movement skills in association with the application of movement concepts and principles provides the basic foundation for physical literacy. In the bottom right, the Strand D, the healthy living strand, which helps students develop an understanding of the factors that contribute to healthy development, the sense of personal responsibility for lifelong health, and a respect for their own health in relation to others and the world around them. Students will develop health literacy as they acquire the knowledge and skills that they need to develop, maintain, and enjoy healthy living, as well as to solve problems, make decisions, and set goals that are directly related to their personal health and mental health and well-being. The social and emotional learning skills are positioned, if you look at the image, they're positioned between arrows and all around the student, illustrative of their importance and the integrative way the social and emotional learning skills are taught within the other strands. I have this image everywhere in my gymnasium and speak to it often with my students. It's a helpful guide for planning, assessment, and evaluation, and overall delivery of the curriculum across all grades. Reflective of this image, instruction in health and phys ed is integrated in such a way that students have opportunities to make connections between concepts and skills in all 4 strands of the curriculum. On this slide are various headlines from research articles. As an educator, it's tempting to think social and emotional learning skills might be the newest catchphrase or the top-down thou shalt do initiative. I think it's important to recognize that social and emotional learning is not new, and it's certainly not new in our subject area. In health and physical education, we've been supporting the affective domain in our programs for years, maybe just not explicitly referring to it as social and emotional learning skills. I'm a little bit nervous about saying social emotional learning skills all afternoon or for the next 35 minutes. So I just want to clarify that sometimes I'm going to say SEL and sometimes I'm going to say social emotional learning skills. I'm hoping that's okay with everyone. I selected this quote because I think it really resonates with me. There's overwhelming evidence that pupils learn more effectively, including their academic subjects, if they're happy in their work, believe in themselves, like their teachers, and feel school is supporting them. I think Andréanne referred to this as well. I said, don't we want this for our students? Very similar to the living skills in the 2015 health and physical education curriculum, the social and emotional learning skills are vital for our students to thrive in the 21st century. Well-developed social and emotional learning skills are sought-after traits that employers are seeking from our graduating students. The good news, the living skills, the good news is, like the living skills, the social and emotional learning skills can and need to be taught. To quote Dr. James Mandigo, they need to be taught, not caught. Social emotional learning is thinking about the competencies that underscore our ability to learn. At the end of the day, we're really talking about teaching people how to be better citizens and more positive contributors to society. The chart on this slide is extracted from page 24 of the 2019 Health and Physical Education Curriculum document. You have a link in the chat if you want to pull it up on your screen. The chart illustrates how the expectations for health and physical education are organized into 4 distinct but related strands. It shows the flow of learning through the curriculum and the interrelationship among its various components. On the right side of the slide, you see the broad categories of learning, Strand B, C, and D. On the left side, you see Strand A. While small, there are arrows from the social and emotional learning skills to the other 3 strands, the white boxes. This strand helps students develop social and emotional learning skills to foster overall health and well-being, positive mental health, and the ability to learn, build resilience, and thrive. In all grades, learning related to the expectation in the strands occurs in the context of learning related to the other three strands and is assessed and evaluated within these contexts. In the social emotional learning skills, you likely have and already or will recognize that many of the concepts from the living skills of the previous health and physical education curriculum. The social emotional learning skills update the living skills in ways that benefit students' mental health and healthy development. And as we learned from Andréanne, it's evidenced by current research. We have an important opportunity as H&PE teachers. Our program provides a unique setting for developing the social emotional learning skills that will help students gain a better understanding of who they are and help them connect positively and productively with the larger world. The direct integration of these skills with other components of the health and physical education curriculum gives students an opportunity to develop, practice, and refine these important skills as they mature. You will notice that there are tags across the curriculum with words reflecting the social emotional learning skill. Similar to the tags that were used to cue integration of living skills with the 2015 curriculum, these tags are meant to reinforce opportunities for learning related to social emotional learning skills across the curriculum. The expectations in Strand A are the same for every grade. There is a single overall expectation and one set of related specific expectations, one for each social emotional learning skill. Similar to the living skills, tags in the previous curriculum, many of the specific expectation in strands B, C, and D are tagged to indicate the social emotional learning skills that can be integrated into teaching and learning associated with the expectation. The tags appear in square brackets after the expectation and use identifiers. So if you look at the image on your screen, this expectation from grade 3 has been tagged A 1.3, motivation, and A 1.5, self. So if you recall from the previous slide, the grade 3 expectation was tagged motivation and self. So it's important because students will learn skills to maintain positive motivation and perseverance so they can foster a sense of optimism and hope. The tag 8.1 self means that students will learn skills to develop self-awareness and self-confidence so that they can develop a sense of identity and belonging. The content for this slide was extracted from page 292 of the curriculum, and I find that chart really, really helpful as well. I feel like I've talked a lot, and unfortunately this slide I have to continue talking. But let's use Strand C as an example of SELs being taught in context. The movement competence expectations are organized into two subgroups: movement skills and concepts and movement strategies. Strand C helps students develop the movement competence needed to participate in physical activities through the development of movement skills and the related application of movement concepts and movement strategies. Social emotional learning skills are integrated as appropriate into each subgroup. Explicitly teaching social emotional learning skills with the movement competence can help students achieve success. However, the focus of social emotional learning skill development shifts with the student stage of development, and this shift may be evident in the context of applying tactical solutions. So if you look at C2.3, and we think about maybe some of us are teaching in the primary division. So if we're thinking about the primary division, we're not going to see C2.3, it's going to be C2.2. And with this expectation 2.3, students learn how to use simple tactics to enhance their success and develop their confidence and a sense of self as they participate in a variety of activities. So if I'm reflecting on my teaching, in a recent NetWall unit with my grade 3s, the students were offering up some pretty good fakes, not going to lie. And most were very successful in the game of Newcomb. So the social emotional learning skills for students in this grade is therefore focused on identifying and managing emotions, learning to cope with challenges, and learning a bit about themselves. I find in the primary grades we are spending a lot of time on identifying and managing emotions, kind of referring to it as losing and winning with grace. So it's really important. If we take the same expectation and we move into the junior division, students in grade 4 and 6 may be ready to strengthen skills for interacting with others, persevering, and coping with challenges. So examples of this might include showing respect for others by not talking when others are aiming, or communicating effectively with teammates during play, and certainly being aware of others' positions in activities. Students in grade 7 and 8 may be prepared to focus on deepening thinking skills and their understanding of themselves and others. So keeping with Strand C, looking at movement competence, the content on this slide was developed and shared so you could see how explicitly teaching social emotional learning skills with movement competence can help students achieve success. So take a moment to read the blue font on the slide. So the blue font represents the social emotional learning tags and the curriculum expectation. So if we look at the first bullet, that first bullet has been tagged self. So we know in our learning opportunities that we provide for our students that students will develop a sense of identity as someone who is physically capable and competent as they become more successful in performing various movement skills. Right, that C2.2 expectation. Think of those grade 3s, practicing those faking skills in the Newcomb game we were playing. Right, so that sense of identity that they're developing while they're becoming more capable and confident. If we look at the second bullet, it's been tagged A1.1, emotion. So students can learn to be aware of the impact of their emotions on their gameplay. For example, being angry or upset can cause them to lose focus. If we look at the third bullet, it's been tagged coping, right? So we're really teaching kids to learn to refocus and be in the moment when they're facing challenges. So the example that's been given is that in a final attempt for high jump, we can support our students in some coping strategies. The fourth bullet, I think we might all be pretty comfortable with, because the C1.3 expectation is looking at the activities we do with our students, exploring movement or involving sending and receiving. But this expectation, A1.4, is tagged relationships, so that students can develop relationship skills and that sense of belonging when practicing one-on-one or when playing in small group situations. So when we have our students involved in co-op games or invasion activities, they really are developing those relationship skills, or it's an opportunity for us to really teach some students who maybe don't have their social emotional learning skills as developed as others. I hope that's clear. Maybe we'll come back to that a little bit later on. Okay, so now it seems like it might be a good time to tap in what you've learned thus far on this webinar, or your own exploring of the curriculum. So on this slide, you'll see 3 images. Select image 1, 2, or 3, and decide how what you're seeing might be illustrative of and or support the development of social emotional learning skills. So a reminder when you're doing this activity that A1.1 is identification and management of emotions, A1.2, stress management and coping, 1.3 is positive motivation and perseverance, 1.4, healthy relationships, 1.5, self-awareness and sense of identity, and 1.6 is critical and creative thinking. So in the chat pod, please share your thinking. Lots of really good thinking. Thanks, Sean. Yes, it certainly does look like lots of great thinking. Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, critical and creative thinking in image 1. Yes, thanks, Lisa. They certainly might be strategizing. I'll just take a few minutes maybe and just share my story behind these images. I am back in a classroom after a fairly long hiatus. So I'm working with kids, and I'm excited about this opportunity. Kids are amazing. And image 1 really is, this picture really warms my heart, because what you're seeing is half of a grade 3 class talking strategy for success in a rock, paper, scissors team challenge activity. I will say it's taken us some time, but we have been developing our classroom community and learning to interact in positive and meaningful ways, including communicating effectively. In health and phys ed, students have unique opportunities to develop and practice skills that support positive interaction with others in small groups and team situations. So when students interact in these positive and meaningful ways with others, mutually respecting diversity of thought and expression, their sense of belonging within the school and community is enhanced. The chart, I guess I should put you to the next slide, because then you can see what I'm talking about. The chart on this, the chart on this slide has been extracted again from page 26 of the curriculum document. So I drew an arrow to building relationships and communicating effectively, but as you pointed out in the chat bot, it is an image, and it is certainly reflective of more than one social emotional learning skill. Image 2, if we look at image 2, this image shows one of my grade 8 students copying success criteria for a forearm pass or bump. And after copying the success criteria, the student observed a peer performing the skill over a period of time, and then used the text as an anchor for a feedback discussion with their classmates. I believe this image, like you've already pointed out, could reflect multiple social emotional learning skills, but on this slide I placed 1.3, positive motivation and perseverance. This amazing chart can be found starting on page 26 of the curriculum document. While admittedly reluctant at first, I believe that many of my senior students are now seeing the importance and value of peer feedback. They're excited to receive both the positive feedback in areas for improvement and are motivated to get better. They are learning about the importance of perseverance and that it's okay to make mistakes. And they're also learning in the context of learning about the phases of movement, the importance of preparation, execution, and follow-through. Image 3 is discussed earlier. Many specific expectations in strands B, C, and D are tagged to indicate social and emotional learning skills that can be integrated into teaching and learning associated with the expectation. The tags, as we've discussed, are in square brackets after the expectation and use the qualifiers. The curriculum has already included possible ways an educator can observe the social and emotional learning throughout the 3 other strands in the curriculum. And this on the screen is an example from grade 7. So I would like to go into the chat a little bit more, but I sense that we're on a bit of a timeline, so I'm gonna sort of forge forward here and give you some thoughts. And I want to be some full disclosure here. I'm back in the classroom after this long hiatus, and I was enrolled at the ministry, including running parts of this curriculum. And I just want to be clear that I don't have all the answers. I am just sharing on the next few slides what's working for me. And I think the first is really important, is that the curriculum really is a resource. And just some strategies that I'm using inside my building that are working, and also the importance of picture books, as well as teacher prompts and student responses. So I will say that while it's a new document, it has some of the same great features. So this slide was adapted from a presentation delivered by the Ministry of Education staff and School Mental Health Ontario, and sharing here because the curriculum document truly is a fabulous resource. When I began teaching, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, there was no health and physical education curriculum. Now, we have a 320-page resource loaded with many features that make the job of delivering the curriculum so much easier. And if you haven't yet done a deep dive into the curriculum, it might be difficult at this time, but if possible, find a buddy and consider setting aside time each week to explore a portion of the document. I'm a bit of a curriculum junkie, but I still think there's a great deal of rich information here. For parent-teacher interviews in November earlier this month, I printed the overall expectations for each grade to share with the parents. And on the back, I included the healthy living chart for the grade. I'm teaching primary this year, and I hadn't taught it in a long time. So early in the school year, I also read the primary division overview, and it was a great reminder of the capabilities of these really young learners. The appendices are incredibly helpful, along with the updates to the glossary. So another thing that's working for me is that in my school of over 900 students, many educators deliver the health and phys ed curriculum. So what I have found easily accessible and helpful has been finding time to connect with the classroom teachers to learn or identify strategies that are already in place in the classroom to support social and emotional learning. As much as possible, I try to use the same language as the teacher or mirror what the students already know. One of my grade 3 classes, for example, has responsibility partners. They are changed often by the classroom teacher. An easy way for me to support the students in finding a partner for an activity in the gymnasium is to have them pair up with this responsibility partner first. It's quick and doesn't leave anyone feeling left out or anxious about finding a partner. These images are from the classroom at my school. Students in this classroom are very, very familiar with Marie Money. In fact, if you're teaching this teacher's health and physical education, you get Marie Money that you get to share with the students. He also uses brag tags and the problem-solving wheel. If children have a problem while in health and physical education, the problem-solving wheel isn't in the space where you're teaching, but you might ask the student to think about the strategies on the problem-solving wheel. Which one might support you now while you're in health and phys ed class? Another thing is that I'm very fortunate to have almost an hour with my students when they have health and physical education 2 times per week. I've been able to utilize picture books to begin to unpack social emotional learning skill concepts. These are a few that I've used with my grade 3 students. During my lessons, I have also been utilizing the prompts from the curriculum to ask students questions. I've asked students to explain how their feelings differ when performing an activity that is fairly easy, such as stationary throwing and catching, and asking them again when doing something more challenging, such as throwing and catching a smaller object while on the move. It doesn't take long, but it allows students to stop and reflect. In Ontario over the last few years, an emphasis has been placed on better supporting student mental health and well-being. For me, this focus has meant additional professional learning, supports, and resources, hopefully for you too. This new learning has had a profound effect on my teaching. One of the most important things I've learned that has really been palpable in my first few months back in the classroom is the importance of validation. Validation is the recognition and acceptance of another person's thoughts, feelings, sensations, and behaviors as understandable. This means we take time to honor how our students are feeling. Like the emojis on this infographic created by Andy Vasili for one game category, if we polled our classes, a range of feelings would emerge from our students. This means we need to listen and truly hear what our students are saying and validate. Naming the feeling may literally stop the student in their tracks. Doesn't mean we have to agree, just that we are acknowledging that it's real for them. We have also placed a link to this blog in the chat room to explore further at your leisure. And this is one of many of Andy's great blogs. If you need someone to follow, he's a great connection. The other thing I am using and utilizing more often that I think we underestimate is the value of a smile. It might truly be the only one a child sees in a day. Maybe a good time to move around and stretch, take a few breaths. I think I need to take a few breaths. But reflecting on the first few months with your students, in what ways are you supporting social emotional learning skills in your classes? Health and physical education classes specifically. Please type your responses in the chat box. Don't be shy. I suspect many of you are already supporting social emotional learning skills in your health and physical education classes. I challenge you to place one thing you've done that'll activate the left side of your brain and the right side of your brain. What's one thing you've done with your students to support social emotional learning skills in your health and physical education classes? Maybe I should scroll down to see all your ideas. My apologies. Yes, thanks, Lisa. I do often give, like others, give time to have a conversation with an elbow partner. Thanks for sharing, Sean. You're right. A great deal of value placed on primary house leagues in terms of supporting kids' sense of belonging, being part of a team. That's awesome. Thanks, Patty. You're right. Sometimes we all need that reminder. It is not the World Cup. Yes, thanks, Andrea. Exit cards are a great way to support student reflecting on the learning.
These are all such great ideas. I'm just amazed by what I'm seeing here and the thought that goes behind some of the lesson planning. And then the connection that you're all making on the chat box right now to the social emotional learning skills, like it's quite brilliant to see how much of that work is already happening. And then, to make it explicit, right? To really remind students and even teachers, right? How that these are the skills that you're actually learning on top of, whichever activities you're learning. Because I noticed somebody talked about having a baseball team at lunch, right? A house league team, and that's amazing. Of course, they're learning some skills around teamwork and collaboration, but it's great to also be explicit about it.
Thanks so much, everyone, for sharing your fantastic ideas. You are many brilliant educators, which is no surprise to me. The province is full of many amazing health and physical educators. We're moving on to our favorite assessment evaluation, and we've left it at the end, and we've left only a few minutes to talk about it. So I'm going to go quickly through. On the slide, you see images of 3 documents. They should be familiar to you, and all are vital in support of assessment and evaluation. We know the primary purpose of assessment and evaluation is to improve student learning. The 2 policy documents, Growing Success 2010 and the 2019 Elementary Curriculum, and the joint OPHEA OASP paper, Quality Assessment to Support the Development of Physical Literacy, are guiding documents to support teacher assessment and evaluation practices. Really, we're not going to spend a lot of time focusing on assessment, but we really are going to look at the curriculum document and Growing Success. So the curriculum, as we are aware, is comprised of content and performance standards. The content standards are the overall and specific curriculum expectations identified in the curriculum document for every subject and discipline. The performance standards are outlined in the achievement chart, which is provided in the curriculum documents for every subject or discipline. So this will be on pages 52 and 53 if you have them in front of you. The purpose of the achievement chart is to provide a common framework that encompasses all curriculum expectations for all subjects, courses across grades. They guide the development of high-quality assessment tasks and tools, which would be like rating scales and rubrics. They help teachers to plan instruction for learning, and they provide a basis for consistent and meaningful feedback to our students in relation to provincial content and performance standards. And they establish categories and criteria with which to assess and evaluate students' learning. The achievement chart supports criterion-referenced assessment and evaluation and identifies the 4 categories of knowledge and skills: knowledge and understanding, thinking, communication, and application. I'm hoping you're all familiar with the 7 fundamental principles of assessment and evaluation: the need to be fair, transparent, and equitable, the need to support all students, including those with special needs and those who are learning of language instruction, the language of English or French, and those who are First Nation, Métis, and Inuit. We know that assessment and evaluation is carefully planned to relate to the curriculum expectations and the learning goals as much as possible, and also kind of matches the interests, learning styles, and preferences, needs, and experiences of the students we have in front of us, not the ones we want to have in front of us. They are communicated clearly to the students and parents at the beginning of the year. They're ongoing, varied in nature, and they're administered over time to provide multiple opportunities for students to demonstrate the full range of their learning. And they provide ongoing descriptive feedback that is clear, specific, meaningful, and timely. And we know that it's important to develop our students' self-assessment skills to enable them to assess their own learning and set specific goals and plan next steps for the learning. So when we look at this next slide, which is extracted from page 10 of Growing Success, the development of learning skills and work habits is an integral part of the student's learning. To the extent possible, however, the evaluation of learning skills and work habits, that big box on the report cards, apart from any that may be included as part of the curriculum expectation in a course, should not be considered in the determination of a student's grade, with the exception of health and physical education. Students' application of the social emotional learning skills must be assessed and evaluated, as we've already discussed, as part of their achievement of the overall expectation in each of the strands for every grade. So in the curriculum expectation, in the curriculum document, on page 45 and 46, there's a notable update or a footnote that's been included that reads, in connection with the health and physical education curriculum, Growing Success, 2010, still refers to the living skills. But these references can now be taken to apply to social and emotional learning skills, and they will be updated in the next edition of the document. Okay, so if you're concerned that Growing Success is not matching the curriculum, that footnote sort of provides some clarity that really we are exchanging the word in Growing Success from living skills to social and emotional learning skills. So we're almost near the end, and what a time we've had together. It's a lot to take in, kind of like drinking from a fire hose. But this update to the curriculum is new, and we need to give ourselves some time to become more familiar and to develop our own competence and confidence. You really are the best person to determine what supports you'll need to become even more comfortable with the teaching and learning of the social and emotional learning skills in health and physical education. Please use the 3 chat pods and let OPHEA know what you need. So we've got 3 chat pods on the screen. What would you like to learn more about? What additional supports do you think would be helpful in terms of your implementation of the curriculum? And in the 3rd chat pod, participate, maybe consider what you've done so far to implement the 2019 health and physical education curriculum. It's tough because the timing of it, I know it came out late, so it's for some of us, it's hard to sort of become familiar with it instantly, so we have to give ourselves a little bit of time.
And Nicki, just while we're waiting for some responses, I just thought maybe we could go through some of the additional resources that we'll share in the chat pod as we're wrapping up in a few minutes. Perfect. I just wanted to highlight the Ministry of Education has some resources available to support with information for parents. And then as well as the document, the Growing Success document. So we'll include links to both of those in the regular chat after this period of sharing. And then I also wanted to highlight just some links both from OPHEA, so connections for our webinar series. So we invite you to join us for the next webinar, which will be in January 2020. So we have a link to the webinar, a link to our resources for grades 1 to 8, so the lesson plans there, as well as the OPHEA and OASB position paper. So we'll include the link again to that in case some folks didn't get that before we cleared the chat. And then we also wanted to share a link to the OASB website as well as their handle on Twitter. So the Ontario Association for the Support of Physical and Health Educators. So I'll turn it back to you, Nicki. I see lots of stuff coming in here.
I see that assessment and evaluation popping up in a few places in chat number 2. Yes, I think we do all need to spend a little bit more time.
I also see Rebecca's spoiler alert that there's a specific online module from School Mental Health Ontario, which I was going to discuss quickly in the next slides in terms of resources. But yeah, absolutely. There's going to be a learning module coming up for educators, for elementary educators, that was co-developed with the Ministry of Education. And it really focuses on the role of the educator in supporting student mental health at school, creating mentally healthy classrooms, helping students to build social emotional learning skills, helping and understanding common mental health problems.
This is in my notes where I think we are meant to pass it over to OPHEA. Is that correct, Kristen? Sorry.
Yeah, so I just see one more person typing. So if they can just move their thoughts into the main chat when we go back. Perfect. And I have chatted through some of the resources that we wanted to share, so we'll put those in the chat link as well. And then I'm actually going to pass it back over to you, Andréanne, to talk a little bit about some of the School Mental Health Ontario resources.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you. I see that there was a lot of participation in the chat boxes, so this is really amazing. And all of the ideas, learning needs, and what can be helpful is really just great to hear from you. So I am with the School Mental Health Ontario, and actually the website here on the slide deck is not the right one. That was our old name, School Mental Health Ontario Assist, but we are now School Mental Health Ontario, so we can maybe update that in the chat box. And we have numerous resources for different audience groups, for educators, for principals, for school leaders in the area of mental health. And I'm just going to give you a quick glance at some of the resources that do exist. So this particular one supports social emotional learning and was co-developed with H&PE. Beginning over 3 years ago. And it has a host of practices and helpful ideas on how you can integrate everyday mental health practices in the classroom. And so I'm going to just invite you to maybe click on the link, take a look, see what works, and see how you might engage students in some of the activities. Somebody did mention in the chat earlier that we have to remember that physical activity is also very, very helpful and very good for mental well-being, and so we want to make sure that link is explicit. So, have a look at these resources. They're all free, and you'll see that they're also organized according to the different social emotional learning categories that we've highlighted today. So, I know that there are so many ideas out there, and you've highlighted so many great creative ways of including social emotional learning in your everyday activities, but these might give you some extra tools in your toolbox. So someone also mentioned that there is a, no problem, Rebecca, I'm happy that you brought it forward. There is a Mental Health Lit, Mental Health in Action, which will be an online course that you will all have access to once it's released. Currently, we've developed the elementary course, and secondary and guidance extensions will be available later on. But I did mention that there are 6 modules, and they're self-directed learning. So it's not going to be something that's facilitated for you, but rather something that you can access on the D2L platforms on the website. So just to give you a sense of the third module, here you go. This one is helping students to build social and emotional learning skills. So it really fits into what we're talking about today. It gives you some of the big ideas, but also some practical skills that can help you. We also have, some pages that help with engaging in developmentally appropriate conversations. So it's really to think about, what should we talk about at different stages of development with students. Some things, are more appropriate than others. And so how do we do that in a way that's helpful and healthy at the same time? Other supplementary resources would include classroom strategies for supporting students with mental health concerns. So some of the things that, we might not feel as comfortable with, we've created some of these supplementary resources to help with, making decisions. The one called desk reference, for instance, is, sort of who do you turn to in your school that can help you support a student who may have some challenging behaviors or social emotional difficulties that they're dealing with. So all of these resources will be available to you in the context of the learning module online. So hopefully they can be helpful to you. And of course, some of these other ones that will be coming up are mental health mentor. So really thinking about some of the different books and learnings that you can share with your students in the classroom. So I kind of bulldozed through those resources, but I think the best thing for you to do is to really click on those links and take a look, see how it works and how it works for you and how you can embed it in your everyday practices. Over to you, Nicki.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for running through all of those. I know we are a little bit over, so thank you to those who are also staying on the line. We will put the additional resource links in the chat feature. And if you'd also just like to take a moment and fill out the poll and rate your degree of knowledge about the social emotional learning skills after this learning experience. While you're also doing both of those things, we will ask that you put any questions that you have in the chat feature, Andréanne or Nicki, and we can respond to those either today in the last minute or so, or we can follow up with responses through our follow-up recap log that we mentioned. We'll also look to share a survey link for you to fill out to provide feedback on today's webinar and to give us some suggestions or additional ideas of supports that you are looking for. We'll just give you a couple of minutes to do that.
So many nice comments. Thank you. That's very great. And I see that people have moved from, a majority having a fair amount to now moving, or was it from some to a fair amount? So that's great.
Thanks, everyone.
Wonderful. So I don't see any questions coming in through the chat, just a lot of some great feedback. So thank you all for that. And thank you for your participation and your ideas. We do definitely look forward to seeing you in January 2020 for the next webinar. And again, please don't hesitate to connect with us with any questions. Thank you both, Andréanne and Nicki, for sharing your expertise and your knowledge. We really appreciate your time and energy and your sharing and learning with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening and an awesome school year.